Folks, she's always been there. It's not a joke. You know, you use phrases like that, but she has always been there. That's her life story. And let's state the obvious. That is not Donald Trump's life story. Senator Ted Kaufman, who you know very well, Hillary, served with you, who used to be my administrative assistant for years and years, graduate of the Wharton School, an engineer by degree at Duke. He said he had a professor at the Wharton School. The Wharton School, by the way, doesn't have a Trump sign up. Anyway, that said, the difference between a success and a genuine success, a minimum success and a real success, is someone who had nothing and makes $1 million is a real success. Someone who inherits $1 million and makes $20 million, no, they're not a bum, but they're a mere success. Now, some are bums, but not all. Look, let me tell you the part that bothers me, and you know, as Hillary will point out and knows that no one ever doubts I mean what I say. The problem is I sometimes say all that I mean. But let me tell you what really bothers me most. And maybe this only works in where I grew up, I don't know. But you know, what bothers me most about Donald Trump is his cynicism is unbounded. I really mean this. Think of this for a minute, because you're all raised in this area. You're different ethnicities, different religions, different backgrounds. But there's one thing I've noticed all the years I've spent, and I've always come home. And that is that the way you were raised, if you ever showed a lack of empathy for someone in trouble, if you ever summed up, thought that the phrase he's most proud of, you're fired. Think about the phrase, you're fired. No, all kidding aside, I really mean this. Maybe it's just me. But think about what your mother or father or grandmother or grandfather would have said to you. Think about everything you learned as a child. I really mean this. No matter where you were raised, how can there be pleasure in division and you're fired? And he's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break, and to repeat myself, it's such a bunch of malarkey. It makes no sense. None. This guy doesn't care about the middle class. And I don't even blame him in a sense, because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't have a clue. No, I mean, he really doesn't. He doesn't have a clue. And by the way, there's something else he has no clue about. That has nothing to do with being a Democrat or Republican. I have worked with 8 presidents of the United States. I have served with hundreds of senators, only 13 senators in history, I'm embarrassed to say, have served as long as I have. Dozens of secretaries of state and secretaries of defense of both parties. And I can say without hesitation, my word is abiding, no major party nominee in the history of the United States of America has, no, don't cheer or quiet, just listen, has known less or been less prepared to deal with our national security than Donald Trump. And what absolutely amazes me, that he doesn't seem to want to learn it. No, I really mean it. He doesn't seem to want to learn it. He doesn't seem to think it matters. This man is totally, thoroughly unqualified to be President of the United States of America. He not only lacks the temperament, people say he lacks the temperament. I'd feel better if that's all he lacked. On every issue that matters most to our security, Donald Trump has no clue what it takes to lead this great country. Now look, you know, if I had said this 8, 10 months ago, you'd say, well, you know, I'm being partisan. Well, I am partisan. I make no apologies for that, but I'm not mean about it. And as Hillary will tell you, I don't know any Democrat that has more positive relationship with Republicans than I do in the United States Senate. But having said that, look at the people who've come out. Scores and scores of the most prominent Republican thinkers in the national security field. They've come out in both political parties and parties. He has no idea what he's talking about. Even confronted with the facts, he doesn't want to learn them. Few times he tries to deal with the facts, he reveals a profound misunderstanding what's at stake. Just listen for a second. Listen to him. He belittles our closest allies in this hemisphere and in Europe. Nations that stand with us are part of our security network, that are with us when we address every international challenge. Those who fought and bled alongside us for decades. He wants to toss those relationships aside, like the ones that like his failed business ventures or something. In the meantime, he talks cavalierly about encouraging other nations, as Hillary pointed out, to develop nuclear weapons, as if a nuclear war is some trivial affair. Does he not understand we wrote Japan's constitution to say they could not be a nuclear power? Where was he when in school? Someone who lacks this judgment cannot be trusted. There's a guy that follows me, right back here, has the nuclear codes. So God forbid everything happened to the president and I had to make a decision. The codes are with me all. He is not qualified to know the code. He can't be trusted. I was proud. My son, Bo, served for a year in Iraq, came back a highly decorated soldier. I must tell you, I must tell you, had Donald Trump been president, I would have thrown my body in front of him. No, I really mean it. To keep him from going if the judgment was based on Trump's decision. Every president since Harry Truman has looked toward a Europe whole, free, and at peace. One of the most consequential people right now who's trying to undo that is a man that Donald Trump says he admires. Now, I'm not big on the character assassination stuff. I really mean that. You look at everything, any campaign I've ever run. I'm just trying to, like that old program of all the Brennan, just the facts, ma'am, nothing but the facts. Oh, that was Joe Friday, actually. But he says he admires Vladimir Putin. No. It's more than the ooh about it. Here's the deal. What is Putin's objective, as Hillary knows as well as anyone dealing with Putin, as I have and the president has, and John Kerry? Putin's determined to crack NATO and crack the European alliance. That is his overarching, overwhelming interest. I'm heading from here, getting on a plane and flying to Kosovo, then to Serbia, then I'm going to the Baltic states. You know, one of the reasons I'm going is to make sure to reassure those who are members of NATO in the Baltic states we mean what we say. We mean what we say, this sacred alliance of 60 years. Because they're worried. Listen to his comments about Ukraine. He assures us Russia will not move on Ukraine. Without understanding they've already moved on Ukraine and occupy Crimea. This guy's shame has no limits. He's even gone so far as to ask Putin and Russia to conduct cyber attacks against the United States of America. No. Even if he is joking, which he's not. Even if he's joking. What an outrageous thing to say. Look, folks, these are not isolated examples. He's even showered praise on Saddam Hussein, one of the vilest dictators of the 20th century, a man who repeatedly back terror attacks against Israel because he was supposedly, the reason he admires him, he was a killer of terrorists. That's why he likes Saddam. He would have loved Stalin. He would have loved Stalin. Look, this says a lot about his approach. It explains why he so often embraced tactics of terrorist enemies themselves. Religious intolerance, casting entire communities as culpable for the acts of a few in the community. Torture when he knows it's illegal and says he would still order it even though the military commanders said they would not obey his orders. When can you think of ever in history where military commanders have said before a man or woman is elected that they would not follow his orders? Threatening to kill innocent family members of suspects. Indiscriminate bombing, what he calls for. That's how anyone hoping to lead this great democracy in the world should behave? Look, he likes autocrats. He wills the politics of fear and intolerance, calling for a ban on Muslims in the United States, slandering proud Muslim parents of a Gold Star family who paid the ultimate sacrifice, threatening to send American citizens to Guantanamo. Oh, I tell you, this guy's okay. Look, Trump's ideas are not only profoundly wrong, they're very dangerous and they're very un-American. They reveal a profound ignorance of our Constitution. It's a recipe for playing into the hands, and I will end this because you've been standing so long. It's a recipe for playing into the hands of terrorists and their propaganda. Last year, ISIL's top leader, who we've been tracking since we got bin Laden, Hillary, me, John, everyone else, the president. His name is al-Baghdadi, and he revealed the goal of ISIL. He just said it straight out. You can go on the website. He said their goal is to, quote, compel the Crusaders to actively destroy the gray zones themselves, meaning anywhere where Christians and Muslims live, he calls a gray zone. He said the objective is to actively destroy that gray zone. Muslims in the West, he says, will have to quickly find themselves between two choices, either apostatize or emigrate to the Islamic State and thereby escape prosecution. How does he make the case? By pointing out that no Muslim is welcome in the West. ISIL wants to manufacture a clash of civilizations between us versus them. Trump is trying to give them exactly what they want. Last week, he stood in front of a crowd in Florida and said President Obama founded a terrorist organization, ISIL. Now look, this I really should end with. That's an outrageous statement. But let me tell you why it's a dangerous statement. Why, as he might say, the bad guys are listening. Yesterday, the head of Hezbollah, a terrorist organization, Iran's top terrorist surrogate, and a direct threat to our ally Israel, repeated Trump's claim in the entire Muslim world and around the world that President Obama founded ISIL. You say, well, what difference does that make? Here's exactly what the leader of Hezbollah said, referring to Trump's accusation. He said this is the spokesman for ISIL. For Hezbollah. This is not a simple speech, referring to Trump. This, I'm quoting him, this is an American presidential candidate. This was spoken on behalf of the American Republican Party. And he, meaning Trump, has the data and documents to back it up. If my son were still in Iraq, and I say to all those who are there, the threat to their life has gone up a couple clicks. It's gone up a couple clicks. You saw what's happening in Turkey, where some in Turkey are accusing us of being part of the coup attempt. Ladies and gentlemen, does he have any idea the adverse consequences of these outlandish comments have on our allies, our friends, and the physical safety of our troops. Trump is already making our country less safe, and I'm testing your stamina. So let me go to the end here and say, Hillary has forgotten more about American foreign policy than Trump and his entire, not exaggerate, his entire team will ever understand. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary's been there. She has been tested. I've been in the room with her as we jointly have, with the president's leadership, sent some of these killers to the gates of hell. At our weekly breakfast on the international stage, she's strong, she's respected, she's admired. There's nothing that she doesn't understand about America's place in the world. And ladies and gentlemen, because she knows one thing that Donald Trump doesn't know, it's never, ever been a good bet to bet against the United States of America. Give it a fair shot. Give it a fair chance. Americans have never, ever let their country down. Never. And ladies and gentlemen, in Scranton and in America, we never bow, we never bend, we never kneel, we never yield. We own the finish line. That's who we are. We are America.